To record them. All right. So, good morning, everybody. And this is our first official workshop for the AV division. And of course, you've all been wanting some really good information on how to approach companies and, uh, oh, we've got Kathleen. Hello, Kathleen. And, uh, and so now we've brought in one of our chief experts on the subject of making the approach and how to uh, basically reach out to companies and organizations. And John Saunders has found ways to help book authors in our book division find money for their financial plans where they weren't expecting it. It's been tremendous. He is the optimizer, and there it is. There it is, available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
And it's like better than a podcast.
That's right. That's right. So I'm going to turn it over to John now, and so much great information is about to come your way, everybody. John Saunders.
You're too kind. Good morning, Fabian. Great to see you again. Thank you for your note on LinkedIn the other day. That was very nice of you. And I think we're going to chat in a day or two. It's later today, actually. Excuse me. Alan, can you give me screen sharing rights? So if there's one or two key themes for, sort of anytime you're developing partnerships or ultimately selling something, because right at the end of the day, we're all trying to raise money here to support this audio video project we're working on, right? And give it some legs and get financing behind it, just like we did with the book, but it sounds like this is a bigger project, right? There's really two, I think, big keywords that I like to think about when I think about these things: alignment and leverage. And I just want to plant those two words in your minds to think about those two words as we go through this whole the workshop here today, because to the degree that you can create leverage for yourself, to the degree that you can create alignment for yourself, the greater alignment, the greater your leverage points are going to be. And I think hopefully we can help everyone identify a few leverage points for themselves to go after coming out of this workshop. I'm definitely going to encourage you to write down a few notes as we go and sort of capture some of these ideas so they don't get lost. And we have a bit of a roadmap to run with. So if you don't have a pen and a piece of paper handy, or however you like to capture notes, I definitely encourage you to do that. But let me pause for 1 second here and just see if I can't find out, if anyone has one or two very specific questions or thoughts they wanted to make sure that we covered today. Can we just start there just to make sure if there is something out there that we definitely don't miss it as we go through?
I think I would say how to find the right context in the organization or the companies is, to me, the most difficult point, because once I'm there, I think I can find my way, how to sell and present my project. But it's really because from being in the company, in an organization, when you see people reaching out to all departments to get something, it's not good. So you have only a couple of shots.
Not good optics. Gotcha. So how to get to the right contact. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have a question or thought they want to? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, John. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
So, I think, I don't think I'm alone in this, but, I have I don't want to say general level of terror asking people for money. But
did you say a general level of terror?
That's the words. Those are the words that I used.
I feel like there's a new book title in there somewhere.
But one of the things that I've experienced just when I was writing my book, and a lesser extent just in my early research for my audio show, which is sort of a continuation of the book, like the 2.0 almost. I am an attorney, and it's a sort of an attorney focused thing, and I am dealing with other attorneys, which are problematic. Every joke you could think about it, it's reasonably true. But I've encountered, hey, could you talk to me for my book? Oh, let me talk to HR and our publicity team. Could I talk to you for my audio show? Sure, but you can't record it. Oh, you got to anonymize everything. And so that's sort of a background that I'm coming from, where I'm now thinking, is it just ultimately I'm wondering, how do you know sort of who to target? Like, is it like, maybe we're not, I know I'm not going out to get IBM to sponsor me, as a bad example, as is inappropriate from my context, but I struggle to see for me, like a law firm being like, yeah, we're going to sponsor you or whatever. Or we need to get all kinds of people because we need to know whose name we're going to put on it and who do we want to associate with. And those are sort of my fears and questions that I have.
Can we try to sort of distill that question down maybe to is it that law firms are potentially your target audience, but at the same time, they're going to be a little bit hesitant to have you bring content in because sort of revealing secret information? Is
I would say, and for the benefit of everyone, I would even broaden it. If as we just talked it through, if I were to distill it, I would say, is there a maybe size of company or type of organization that we should target who are going to be more likely to be willing to associate themselves with an unknown author or an unknown audio show host, or maybe a little bit more modest situation?
So so you're wondering, are they going to believe in your credibility? Is that what I'm kind of hearing?
Kind of, I think.
I'm going to file that one under imposter syndrome, Chris. Is that all right?
Yeah. There's a big file on that. So
I'm only laughing because, believe me, I feel the same. I just got invited to speak at a global conference last week, and they called me out of the blue and asked me to do it. And I was like, well, who the hell am I to come and go speak to this group? Actually, Fabian, you might check this group out, BTOES, BTOES, pretty interesting. But I can promise you, as I was preparing my talk for those guys, I was having similar thoughts, Chris. Anybody else want to put a question out there? Or have something they want to make sure they get answered? And we could, sort of grab these things as we go as well, but
I'm sure you're going to be covering this too, but I actually don't want very many sponsors. And so it's just kind of like, how do you go after the two big ones or whatever, and just be able to maximize that? I feel like a lot of times if you go after a lot of sponsors, it just becomes tedious to just maintain and manage.
Yeah.
So it's that. And then also just kind of what is the best sort of way to position them inside of the videos or whatever. I think it would be great to talk through.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this concept of how to position them? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So if we're going out and trying to raise money, what are the types of things that we should be offering them in the video? Is it, product placement in the background? Is it, bumpers? What's sort of what, if I was to say, hey, John, I just want to get 2 sponsors, Visa and MasterCard, what should I be giving them so that they cover the cost of the entire thing?
Gotcha. This is very much going to come back to this alignment and leverage thing I brought up earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I'm with you. You can't manage 100 of these relationships, right? And if then you're getting $100 from each of them versus 2 people who cough up all the money, I totally get that. Excellent. Blake or Kathleen, anything else you want to add to that, or should we dive in here? We can ask questions as we go.
I have no questions on my end.
Okay. Kathleen, I'm going to go by your silence that you have a similar feeling to Blake.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. This is just a shameless plug for my book. Okay. Oh, I want to jump. Can you all see the screen here?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So here's just sort of the breakdown of what I want to try to talk to you about today. And this is definitely under the why, what, and how. And so what I'd first like to get you to just think about, and we'll go through just a real quick exercise on this, is like, why does the world, and by world, I mean your world, this audience that you're trying to target, why does the world need your message? What's the purpose of it? And really, what are your goals at the end of the day? So we'll go through some thoughts around that. What does the target audience need, and what is your alignment? So, I like to call it the win-win-win. How does the audience win? How do your partners win? These corporate sponsors we're talking about, and what's winning for you look like? And really digging into that. And then I want to show you a case study, and I've got several others. If we have time, I can share that have been really interesting ones. And then how to ask for help, who to ask for help. And then hopefully if we have some time at the end, we can do a little bit of a live sort of research case study for maybe one or two folks on the call here today that we can all take a template from and run with. So that's the layout here that I was thinking about. And as I said, happy to answer questions as we go. So let's dive in. So I would ask, sorry about that. Man, my computer is really going slowly with the Zoom share here. So I would first ask this question. I'd love for somebody to share their answer to this question with me. So why did you create this content, right? Writing a book is painful enough, right? That I think many, if not all of you did already. And now you're creating this enormous amount of video content, which I'm sure is another like dozens, if not hundreds of hours to get done. So I'd love to get a sense of why, if somebody would be willing to share, why did you take the energy and time to put this content into the world?
Because when I launched my book and some friends told me, you know what, I cannot read it because I bought it, but my teenage daughter took it from me and she has questions and I cannot answer that. And suddenly I said, Fabienne, you're talking about the future of the world, the feminine energy in innovation, and the kids are the future of the world. So this is how I decided to create this video course based on the book, but targeting teenagers who are the future.
I love it. And if we maybe push on that a little bit further, dug a little bit more deeply into that, Fabienne, and I know your story probably better than everyone else is on here just because we were in the same book cohort. I think there's a sense from you that, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but that you're trying to help empower young women to help them get into these more innovative careers and thought, and get them started earlier thinking this way as opposed to later. Is that a fair statement? Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like the way you say empower them from the beginning. It has to start early.
Right, and I think this gets sort of back to this sort of role model concept, right? Many times if whatever we see around us, that's kind of what we know and go into, and you're trying to shake that up a little bit and help young women get into more sort of interesting and advanced careers. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to share a little bit about why they took the time and energy to do this?
I guess on my side, it's more about how people learn. I think a lot of people learn better reading. Some people learn better watching videos. And I feel like short form video content is kind of just like, as Fabienne said, it's like the way of the new world, and how can I get this bite-sized information to people easily and in kind of a fun way.
Thank you for sharing that, Ahmed. And let's replace the word content with your message now. And could you answer the question that way?
Content. Okay, so my message is around just payments in general. It's a very complicated topic, and I want people to be able to understand it easily. It shouldn't require a PhD to understand.
And when you talk specifically about payments, are these credit card payments? Is it paying the bills?
Credit card payments. Yep.
Gotcha. So we're trying to figure out. So why do people need to understand how to make payments more easily?
I guess my audience is more entrepreneurs and engineers that are sort of working in the space, because I think that at some point everybody's going to need to interact with card payments, and how can we actually make this accessible to as many people as possible?
So would like a Square be a potential partner for you? Something like this? Would they have an interest in alignment there?
Square, Stripe, Marqeta, Galileo, Visa, MasterCard, these are the ones. I think Visa and MasterCard are the big dogs that probably could, put down the whole amount if we need to.
And is there, and forgive my ignorance on this, but is there a bottleneck here that you've identified for entrepreneurs that, gosh, where do I even go with how to even begin sort of collecting payments from my clients? Is that what you're going after?
Yeah. So what it is that just about every major business has to interact with some sort of commerce, right? So
Sure.
if you're selling something, you have to inevitably be able to collect payment for it. And I think what's happening is that it's so complicated. Even today, like I think Square's done a great job making it a lot easier, but collecting payment is really hard. And then being able to, use cards for various purposes. Like, let's say, for example, you want to create your own bank. Like, how do you do that? And basically be able to kind of educate people there, because there's not a lot of content out there. Majority of the content that's out there is really dry. And so I want to just kind of make it a little bit more lively and fun. Even though I'm not the most lively person myself, but
I don't buy that for a second. Don't buy that for a second. I will tell you that I run my kids are in the Cub Scouts, and I help run the fundraiser every year for that, the popcorn sales thing we do. Yeah. And we actually got a partnership with Square. And so cool. As we went around and went door to door selling, well, not this year, but in the last couple of years, this year was all in line with the COVID, but we would literally stand at people's doors and my kid would zip their credit cards through the Square machine. And
That's awesome.
they gave it to us fee free. Normally they collect like 1.5% or 1.6 or something.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So interesting story on Square and alignment there. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have want to dig in a bit into their why or share? This is a big part of your story, because if you can align your passion and purpose with the energy and passion and purpose of an organization, like that's why I'm trying to dig into these and help people sort of identify their roadmap for this. That's where you can really make these things come to life. And then you're not out sort of selling whatever it is you're selling. You're helping them perpetuate and build upon what they're already trying to build upon, and hopefully solving a problem for them. So that's why I'm really trying to dig into this purpose concept.
From Ahmed's answer, I see a theme there, which is we're trying both to demystify something and make it accessible through the video format. And I think this is something that hit me when you said that, Ahmed. Make them, understand what it is. And innovation is a buzzword. The credit card is this black box, and nobody wants to talk about that. So understand, demystify, sorry, and make it accessible and digestible.
Yeah, love that. So maybe this might be some interesting nuggets for getting when we get to sort of how you message this stuff when you got to actually make the outreach. So here's my thought for you all. Let's take a leap here and let's think about, is everyone familiar with the term BHAG? Big, hairy,
audacious goal.
Thank you. So what I'd encourage you all to do, take your pen and paper or however you like to take notes, and let's put one or two just sort of absurd goals out there on a piece of paper and just absorb it. I find writing things down can really help me sort of absorb it and think a little bit more about it in terms of where we go next from here. But can we all just take a minute and sort of do that? What would be an absolutely awesome goal to come out of this for you all personally and professionally? I'm going to pick on Blake and Kathleen now, since they've Ahmed, Fabian been sharing a lot. Thank you so much. But Blake or Kathleen, anything you'd like to share from a big goal for yourselves for this project?
Well, for me, I'm actually just listening in to kind of learn, because I've worked with a couple of the people, Fabian, and if Carolyn would have been here, I would have worked with her, helping them guide along. So I'm more listening in to just kind of learn more to help future authors.
Gotcha.
Sure, I can chime in. Sorry, I'm in transit. I'm in Central Time, so I thought this was at 10 Central Time, so a little unprepared today. But a goal of mine is to become a credible thought leader in the nutrition education space.
Love that. As long as we've had all these, I feel like the whole history of nutrition and health has been littered with sort of get quick fix things, get fixed quick things. And right, I'm guessing your story isn't about that, Kathleen. Is that a fair statement?
That is very fair.
Sorry to assume on you there, but I had a guess. So when you think about that idea, thought leader in this nutrition and health space, where does that make you think in terms of Ahmed mentioned Visa and MasterCard, where does that sort of make you go in terms of where there might be potential partnerships out there for you, just to start thinking about this?
Yeah, I've really been thinking. I interviewed a couple like companies that produce like organic food with no additives that I really trust. So they're my immediate target, since I'm already, in a way promoting them in the audio show by interviewing them. Also interviewed somebody from the Plant-Based Foods Association and some bigger organizations like that. So that's kind of my first layer. And then second layer would be similar brands and organizations that align to the mission. And then, I've talked to a mentor about it, and she was kind of like, or you could just ask anybody to sponsor you as an entrepreneur starting their own show and business. So the doors are kind of open. I think my struggle is really narrowing it down in that sense.
I mean, I certainly think in this sort of age we live in, where people are trying to bring healthier and healthier food to the world, you've got I think you might have the problem of almost too many options to chase after, which is, I think, a good problem to have to start, but certainly narrowing it down will help. I find it fascinating. A good friend of mine just got food on the shelf at Trader Joe's. She makes empanadas. And she's an entrepreneur. She's been in business 2 or 3 years now. And the way she got on Whole Foods regionally, but now Trader Joe's nationally, was having this sort of simple product, right? You look at the ingredients and it's like 5 things, as opposed to, right, so many products today have like 30 ingredients in. You're like, don't even know what 3/4 of them are. But that's awesome. Kathleen, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have a thought they want to share on their BHAG?
John, I'll go, and it sort of actually answers the last question as well, where I didn't share. So when I wrote the book based on sort of my experiences working at various law firms and how I thought that they could be better and how they could improve the associate experience. And my goal ever since then, and this is also why I took on the audio show, is to be able to transition to full-time coaching and consulting to it. And really it's broader than law firms, but that's just my historical background. But, coaching and consulting, making employees' lives better, but also improving their performance at the same time.
I love that. And so that wasn't something we got to before, this improving the associate experience. Why is improving the associate experience important? Yeah. Which I think you answered it there, right? It's sort of making them operate more effectively and having a better impact, and obviously having a career and being more engaged in their work at the end of the day, right? Those are big missions. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to jump in, or I'm happy to move forward?
Quickly, one of the outstanding outcome would be for me to have the education system integrate the video course Future You into their regular curriculum.
So have like a university or a high school?
Absolutely, high school. It's very audacious, I know, but
Hey, why not?
and
If there's if there's one thing I think all of us have learned in this last year is there's lots of ways to consume educational information. And I sit on an advisory board at my university I went to, and man, I'll tell you, one of the big questions that went around over the last year and a half was, how do we keep charging 60 grand a year for Zoom? When there's all this free content out there that people can learn from. I love that. So I think there'd be a lot of universities interested in this story, Fabienne, in terms of helping empower young people with innovation. That's great. All right, let's jump ahead here, move on to so we have hopefully a little bit of a sense of the why that we're working on here. So let's get into this alignment concept, right? What is winning? And what I like to sort of describe this is where's your win-win-win? So you've got three people here, right? You've got you, the creator, you've got this partner that you're thinking about, or partners that we're talking about here, and of course, then this audience that you're trying to speak to. So let's think about this for a minute. So what is the alignment and benefit to your story? We got into this a little bit with, I think, Fabienne's story and Chris's and maybe Ahmed's, and that is, right, the benefit, right? Having associates live better lives, in Fabienne's case, empowering these young women to take on, or to embrace and join different types of careers in the innovation space. But let's think about that for a minute. So how do each of these audiences win from your story? Can we, so we have can we think about that for a minute? Like, how do you as a creator win from this journey? Can someone like to share that story with me? If we get this partnership right, how do you win? I think, Chris, your win would be getting a robust coaching business off the ground. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, and also, and I know this is would be considered very short term, but also to the extent that I would help fund, production, in addition to other individual contributions.
Right. Certainly, right. This funding of their production, I think, is sort of the pure end goal here, but right.
Yeah.
Looking further
Yeah,
out.
but no, the win is robust coaching and consulting business.
Awesome. And when you think about so we talked to Chris in your case, let's play with your case study here for a moment. So, right, getting this thing funded, of course, and then building this coaching business out. And the audience, I think it was about helping people grow their careers, being more engaged and being more productive. Is that sort of the win for the audience from your message? Is that a fair statement?
It is. And this has always been sort of I don't want to say a complication, but sort of an interesting quirk of my audience is, in my case, my partner is often really my audience, and the associates are they're off on their own, if that makes any sense. So I'm actually targeting the business as my customer, right? Versus, I'm not specifically, it might be part of business model, but like right now, I'm not specifically targeting to hire an individual or to have an individual hire me to help them improve their career. I'm targeting the actual businesses, saying, hey, if you hire me, I can help your people improve their careers while improving their performance for you. So my partner and audience are kind of the same.
You're actually sort of stepping into the next slide I'm going to share with you all, but I totally get what you're saying and agree. But I think at the end of the day, right, there's this, let's use an offer as a case study, right? And then at the end of the day, you're not necessarily helping these people you're talking to directly, you're helping them improve this experience, life, careers of the people that work for them, right? And help them have better careers, which ultimately helps the partners of this firm. Is that a fair statement?
For the purposes of this slide, I think that that's fair to still call, they fit into what you have as the audience.
Gotcha. Yep. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have a thought or nugget they'd like to share about the alignment and benefit to each of your audience members? Ahmed, this might be a fun one for you to play out, thinking about these credit card companies and payments, right? So this is what I was getting at with this sort of bottleneck thing. Like, what's the problem that you're solving for, and how do we sort of back into it?
Yeah, actually, this is actually good. I was just thinking about this. I wrote, initially I was kind of writing about what do I want to get out of it, and I was like, oh, it'd be great if I can get a lot of viewers and kind of be known as the expert, so that people would kind of come to me for this kind of content. But then I go to the partner, trying to think about what really they're getting out of it. Is I thought it'd be great to be able to get their brand in front of future innovators. And I was thinking actually about that, and I was like, you know what? I want to be in front of the future innovators first. And it's more, it's a little bit of a different point of view, because it's like, okay, if you're selling educational content, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, hey, you bought my book. Hey, you bought this educational content. But I think there's actually something deeper there, in that I think these future innovators are going to come, they're going to learn about this stuff, and then they're going to build companies, they're going to raise a lot of money, and, they're probably going to do really well. Or maybe they might not, but like, being able to be there first, I think there's actually something there that I actually didn't think about until I thought about this, because I think the payments companies like Visa and MasterCard, they want to be in front of these people, because they want to say, oh, okay, when you're thinking about doing something, you come and talk to us first. I almost feel like I kind of want the same now.
You want to be the bottleneck between innovation and how payments are done?
I don't want to be the bottleneck, but
maybe that's not the right word.
I want to be their
conduit.
Yeah, I want to be there first.
Am I sensing maybe a bigger goal here, which is being the new Stripe or Square? Is that maybe what I'm hearing here, Ahmed?
No, I don't think I'm. No, okay. I think I'd much rather be able to invest in these people. I don't know if I want to do it,
Gotcha.
Because I've been through it and I don't want to do it again.
So I'm gonna ask you to hold on to that thought and start to think about that audience that you just described, these entrepreneurs, these young innovators building new and better things. And we're going to get to this next, but I want to start to plant the seed for the next segment of this workshop, which is, who are those people and how do we get in front of them? Because that is absolutely where we're headed next to this. So let me ask this question. When we think about these partnerships, how do we prioritize these audiences? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Who should we worry about first, second, and third? In my humble opinion.
I think it will be a mix, because to your point, it has to be a win-win-win. So alignment of in values and vision and mission, but also accessibility. Whom do you know there? Do you have do you have contacts and so on? And because I think it's a balance between both.
Anyone else want to take a stab at that one?
Part of me, I feel like I don't know if it's meta or not, but like, I feel like I'm going to say the creator in the sense of investing in yourself, putting that first amount first, will then, require you to do the other things. That's my first gut response.
Chris, I'm going to make the argument that the exact opposite is the truth in my view. Which is, to me, to make these things work, right? If anyone's ever read anything that Eric Ries put out, right, the Lean Startup guy, one of the great thoughts he shared, he was someone I researched for my book, is like, he's told this story in one of those TED Talks or one of the talks he gave, and it was something about, he wrote like 12 million lines of code And he was like, this is the best code ever made. And it was this app. It was for 17-year-olds and this kind of thing. And they thought it was going to go viral for sure with this whole model. They launched this thing with all this fanfare and like 2 people bought it. And what they ended up finding out after millions of lines of code and just spending hours and hours and hours and months was they weren't paying attention enough to the audience and how they were solving a problem for them. In fact, their model did exactly the opposite of solving a problem for their audience, because they were trying to target 16, 17, 18-year-olds to buy this app, build this little goofy avatar, and that was what people would see when they texted them or whatever. And what they found out was the kids, to make it go viral, the kids would make their own avatar, and then to get the actual avatar, they had to send it off to their friend to say, hey, you build an avatar too. But the kids didn't know if this avatar was cool enough yet. It was literally a quote from one of they did a bunch of research with people, and they didn't have it right with the audience. And that's why I really stress that. So if we can think about how does the audience we're trying to get after, how do they win from our story? Chris, in your case, talking about sort of building this better career for these young associates and having better, more fulfilled lives, and ultimately having a better and well-run and profitable law firm. If I'm sort of paraphrasing what you said, to use Chris's example, how do they win? That audience wins, right? So then how does that partner win, which is the law firm, right? They're having this more profitable organization that they've built and established and engaged employees. So people are happy to work and all of these lovely things that come from it. And then at the end of the day, right, I think you're going to win if you can get all of these things right, because you're going to sell your video content. You're going to develop coaching businesses, or in Kathleen's example, she's going to make the world healthier. She's going to find organizations that want to perpetuate the story about having a healthier living. And at the end of the day, become the thought leader, sell more books, sell more video content, whatever it might be. But let me pause and get all of your reactions to that line of thinking.
Yeah, let me actually ask you about this, because now I'm wondering if I'm not thinking about this correctly from like an advertising standpoint. When I'm thinking about this in my head, I was thinking again that the audience are associates, the partner are the law firms that I want to hire me, and then I'm the creator, of course. And maybe I have that just totally screwed up. Is the audience the law firm or business, whatever, and a partner is somebody who they themselves want to sell to the business from an advertising standpoint? So if I think of my audience, like the audience of my book or my show is a law firm partner that I want to hire me to come in and consult with their firm, and the partner is a patent drafting company that wants to sell their services to that audience, so they would want to partner with me to get advertising. Maybe I'm off on how I'm thinking about this.
I think you could look at it from both perspectives. The one that sort of the lowest hanging fruit in my mind is the audience being these, young lawyers, young associates in a firm.
Okay.
You going to the partner being the law firm itself and helping them with this coaching, with this video content, making them better employees. And then at the end of the day, because they're going to win because you're making the organization better, and then you're going to win because you're going to sell book, content, coaching, what have you. But I think you can look at it through this other lens as well, as where there are other parties that can help create leverage for you. I'll give you an example. One of the authors I was working with this morning, as a matter of fact, her story is, earlier this week, her book is about STEAM, right? Science, technology, this thing. And then these young girls that each represent the 5 letters, they're all diverse young girls. And they go to Uganda to work with the African, to help save the silverback gorillas. And so one of the ideas that came out of this that we thought about was, how do we create a win for these partners that you have? And so we Googled like Uganda Tourism Board as an example and thought, what do they want to do, right? They want to bring more people to Africa and Uganda to come do these tours and ultimately save the silverback. And so we found one of these organizations called Get Out of the Gorillas or something like this. I forget what it's called right now. But anyway, they are going to fly her down this September to come down and go on a 3-day gorilla safari and do a talk for their audience. Because what is she doing? She's perpetuating the message of gorillas and saving the gorillas, and certainly the STEAM thing, to get more kids into wanting to be doctors and sort of save these. So there's one sort of very quick version of a case study on that maybe will help create some clarity. But in that case, the audience were, potentially, because at the end of the day, as I put here, right, the partner wants you to grow and engage their audience, right? And the audience wants to be educated and evolved, I would hope, or maybe they don't know it yet, but that's what you can do for them. And then obviously you get to grow and build your services you're trying to sell. But does that case study resonate with you to help you think a bit more clearly about what you're thinking about, Chris?
It does. It does. It's helpful. It has me thinking. Let's say that.
Okay, good. I just feel like if you focus on the audience, like the Eric Ries case that I gave, and what is sort of the problem you want to solve for them, and how do they win, right? And then the partner that wants, why do they want to perpetuate your story, right? How does it help them? And so in Ahmed's case, it's perpetuating this sort of simplification of payment systems, maybe is sort of a simplified version of his story. So who's going to want to help perpetuate that story? Or in the case with the gorillas, they want to go out and help save the gorillas. So that's how we found them. Like, we didn't set out, like we started that whole gorilla story with a blank piece of paper. You've got a story about gorillas and kids in STEAM. And that's where we landed, thinking about it through, how does the audience win? How does the partner win? How does the author win? And the creator win. So hopefully that gives some thoughts on that. Fabian, anything you'd add to this chat we're having here?
Yes, actually, there is a complexity in the audience, to your point, Christopher. For example, for future video course, the users will be the teenagers, but the prescriptors, the buyers, will be the parents, and the censor somewhere will be the teachers. So you have sort of this triangle, and so it makes things a little bit complicated, but also opens the possibilities. So I think how to really very specifically define the audience and their specific needs and their specific benefits is not that easy.
You have a similar situation that to me, in a sense that the people maybe that you're ultimately trying to help are not actually the people buying it.
Absolutely. This is a nice summary. And this is what I'm struggling with, because now I'm starting to get some beta users. So the teenagers tell me that, the parents tell me something else. And I'm just like, ah.
Right.
So this, to me, this is the biggest issue of, or opportunity also perhaps in the audience.
And this is, and these partners, as in the case with the gorilla, or as a case study I'll go through here in a second, I think there's plenty of ways to play this. Another example with the gorilla case study is, there's this world-leading doctor on, saving silverback gorillas. So we've already had an outreach to this particular doctor. She's got tens of thousands of followers on Twitter to help create some cross-promotion there as sort of one leg of the stool. So, the partners can have a different level of impact on you at the end of the day, right? You're all trying to raise money. But I think there are other ways to play this to help create sort of that buzz, that feed around whatever it is you're trying to do. Because ultimately, when you reach out to these people, they're going to Google you and see what they find out on your LinkedIn page, Instagram, wherever you like to put stuff out there, your website, and they're going to want to see what's out there. And
the issue, John, is that the teenagers will go on TikTok and Snapchat, and I'm not there.
Maybe we need to do a workshop on TikTok training, which I will not be able to lead,
God,
but we can find somebody. But I think in your case, in your case, Fabienne, one of the things, very specifically your case, I've done a lot of outreach to my university, my business school I went to, and I've gone in to be a guest speaker with them a couple times just to talk to different leadership classes and build a little bit of an affinity there. And that helped me land a couple of interviews with the school where they send it out to the alumni newsletter, things like this. But through that outreach, one of the professors actually introduced me to a gentleman who's he's on loan from SMU, Singapore Management University. He told him about my story. And he has already reached out to me to say, hey, could you come in and do part of this next program I have with me in the fall semester? So that could be, I'm not sure how much you reached out to your university yet that you went to, but that
it's up to France and Eastern French. So this is not the right channel, but I can reach out in the US, definitely.
Certainly. And there's so much, so much of it's being done online these days. There might be an opportunity there. Let's jump ahead in the interest of time, but thank you for all of your input there. So let's go to the last part here, and which is, all right, so we talked a little bit about the why, we talked a little bit about the what, and let's jump into the how. So we'll go through a quick case study of an author that went through at the same time. I think, cohort or two after Fabienne and I. So who to ask for help, how to ask for help, and if hopefully we have a little time, we can try to do a little bit of a live case study. So in this case, Honda Inc. I can never get her last name right. I apologize. Amgalan, I think it is. Her book was about growing up with tuberculosis, and her message was about tuberculosis and that it carries a massive stigma. She's from Mongolia, and it carries a massive stigma. And she got it when she was 13, and it just totally derailed her life. Not only because she had this illness, but at the same time, she had this challenge she wasn't even aware of, which is you were given this massive negative stigma as a Mongolian person that got TB. You were, from a bad family, you were poor, you were just, if you were already sort of looked upon in a bad way, it magnified it even greatly because only, terrible people get TB. It's just got this immense, terrible stigma. So her book is literally called Stigmatized. And so we thought about that, like, all right, who's the audience for this mission? Well, tons of Mongolians that get sick and have this sort of mindset that is just really off the mark. Just because you get sick from something doesn't mean you're a terrible person and should be shunned by society. So we started to look at, TB associations in Mongolia. And sure enough, there's one called Stop TB, and it's actually a UN sanctioned organization that wants to go out and make this change. So talk about alignment, right? She's got all these people who need help. They don't even know how to go about it. And there's this organization looking to help perpetuate this message about, hey, let's not look at these people in such a poor light. And they went out and they bought $5,000 worth of her books and gave her a $3,000 marketing budget because there was such extraordinary alignment. And they connected her. First, we found the doctor who runs this organization, and the outreach started with him. And then he referred Honda to an artist who does some work for them. And she actually, that particular artist, drew a bunch of graphics for Honda in her book. And they've landed her a bunch of speaking engagements to go out and drum up press and outside of the PR budget that they gave her. So they got her on the news in Mongolia and things like this. But so you see that we thought about, all right, who wins from this? Who's the audience that wins? It's these poor people in Mongolia that are suffering from this massive stigma. Who's an organization that wants to change that? Stop TB, this UN partnership, right? And so how do they win? They help because they win because she's going to help undo this massive stigma that sits out there. And then how does she win? She had a pretty big win with book sales and getting a PR budget to go perpetuate the story and a bunch of press. So you see, hopefully you see this alignment thing and this prioritization thing that I'm talking about. And I drew this picture on the right-hand side here very intentionally. How do you create that, sort of round peg and round hole circumstance versus a square peg, round hole circumstance, which sometimes we do if we don't think about it enough and get the alignment right. So let me pause there on the case study and see what reactions we have to that, and if it sort of triggers any thoughts for people with partnerships for them.
I think it's a very nice illustration of the previous slide. Make sure you have the win-win-win. And it reminds me of what I say about collaboration. It's like it has to be something bigger than the three parties. So you have really, perhaps what we could add here is the common goal between the audience, the partner, and the creator. If you have this big common goal vision, it would be helpful too, because then you see how every
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Maybe, I don't know if it was my headphones or something else, but I think you were talking about sort of this theme, this thread that kind of goes through them all.
Yeah, exactly. The big common goal, like in collaboration, it's not teamwork, it's 1 + 1 = 3. So what else are we building all together between the audience, the partner, and the creator towards something bigger than us?
I love that.
I'm clear.
What's that?
I don't know if I'm clear.
No, I think that's what I was trying to say with this message on the bottom here, which is alignment is paramount, but I think I could add the word goal alignment is maybe a way to make this slide even more clear. So I appreciate that insight that it wasn't clear, because that's exactly what I'm trying to say with this bottom line here, which is alignment is paramount. If we can align all of our interests and help.
And my point is that to spell out the alignment.
Could you say that one more time?
It's to spell out the alignment. Now you understand the problem I have recording the audiobook with communication.
Mine did not go smoothly either. I can promise you that. I'm going to have a lot of retakes. I just turned mine in. Thank you for that, Fabienne. Any other thoughts or reactions to this slide, this case study here? Does it help people think about maybe some partnerships that you might consider? And we're going to jump to that specifically next. But all right, let's jump ahead. I see we're it's almost 11 o'clock already. So my big thing is like, actually, Fabienne, you said it. Here's my famous coffee mug, the Optimizer 1 + 1 = 3. How about that? Did you know that I have this coffee mug? Somebody sent me that because that's exactly how I try to.
I love that.
That's really funny you said that. And coffee mugs never lie. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that. But in fact, it's exactly the story I'm trying to think about here. You know, how do you create that 1 + 1 = 3? So in Chris's case, as an example, might be the law firms that could go out and maybe not only help him get coaching business with their law firm, but he does such a wonderful job that they help spread his message to others. So when I think about this list of people as a starting point, I think it's people you interviewed for your book or maybe for your video content, people that inspired your work, maybe a professor, family, friend, an entrepreneur that you know, mentors or mentees. I'll tell you, I do a lot of work with the mentorship program at my business school, and sometimes people are a little bit hesitant to be a mentor because it's a big time constraint and all of these things. I will tell you, having been a mentor in this program now for a number of years, I find it immensely helpful to work with mentees because oftentimes they ask me questions to get me to think about things I haven't considered, because so many times we're working sort of on our or in our project or whatever it is that we don't often work on our project. And I find immense help from that. In fact, the best interviewee I got in my book was directly from my mentee from last year, interestingly enough. So organizations that might have partnerships. Fabienne, I think you kind of hinted at this earlier. Another author that just went through the program is a coach. He coaches a track team, and he developed a partnership with Under Armour. So talk about alignment, right? The audience, right? They need better athletic equipment and better gear to go out and run and train and all of these things. Under Armour wants to sell lots of this stuff, right? And build a brand with young people to get them to use it for their whole lives. And obviously at the end of the day, the author was able to go out and through his pre-sale campaign, create a bunch of really cool packages that always tied into something with Under Armour. And one of them was giving shoes away. So every time someone bought his book, Under Armour would donate a pair of shoes to a low-income high school in his area. So thinking about that. So let's take a quick pause here and think about, right, where are there people in our lives that could go out and help us? And there's one thing I found in life is that there people are very willing to help you, but we have to be able to go out and they aren't going to wake up one day and say, hey, Fabienne, I know you're working on this project. How can I help you? Right. But if you reach out to them, and by the way, then spoiler alert, the next slide is going to give you some case studies on how to specifically create that language. But let's just think about that for a minute. Who are the top sort of 3 to 5 people in our lives, in our business relationships, in our network, whatever it might be, that we might be able to go out and say, hey, I'm working on this project. You know, how might I go about this? And how could you help me here? We can talk about that specifically, but let's just take a minute or two and write down, 3 to 5 names you could think of, organizations, people. You see the list here, and maybe there's a group I missed, but that's why I put the question mark in here to sort of leave it open-ended. But let's just take a minute to sort of write down sort of 3 to 5 names that might be a good group to reach out to.
John, I have another meeting in a few minutes, so I will have to jump off. But before, what I found out is ex-colleagues, and I have a long career in one company, but ex-colleagues, I was so surprised when I published my book on LinkedIn and so on, how many people from my old company reached out and said, oh my God, this is great, and so on, and supported me, actually. So the ex-colleagues, as long as you had a good relationship with them, that I found are very precious. So just wanted to say that before I sign off.
I couldn't agree more. And so in the interest of time, hopefully everyone could think of at least maybe one name in there. Let's sort of, jump ahead to the punchline here. And right, how are you going to make it easy for them to help you? To me, that's all about research. All these questions are really how specifically can they help you, and how will you customize your ask? And the more you can make that specific ask. So here's the way I like to frame this question. And I can't tell you how many times this has helped me in my life and my career. So here's like a basic case study for this. Thank you so much for your help with whatever it is you created, your book, your video, with someone that inspired you. right? Your insights have really enriched my work immensely, particularly around this story, whatever it is. The more you can customize this note, the better. I'm embarking on a new chapter and sharing my message with the world because I think it's so important, because I want to make sure that young people, young women in particular, get involved in the innovation space, to use Fabienne as a case study here. So I'm creating this content. The content will be finalized in, insert your month there, August, whatever it is. I'd love to brainstorm with you. If you were me, how would you go about promoting this journey of mine and going out and finding these partnerships? That I'm telling you all, this is my $10 million question. If you were with this setup, you helped me. Thank you so much. I think you're brilliant. If you were me, how would you go about this journey? And I'm not kidding you. That simple question right there has opened so many doors in my career. If you don't believe me, read my book. There's 3 huge inflection points in here. They're all predicated on that question right there, where I kind of got stuck and went through this exercise we're going through right now about targeting the right people, finding a mentor, an aspire, a colleague to help me think through this question. And it just opened a dozen doors for me. And asking specifically for their time to chat for 15 to 30 minutes to brainstorm on this. But more importantly, I love to start this conversation very open-ended. What would you do if you were me? But then have that 1 or 2 specific asks in your back pocket, which is, hey, I know you have friends at this law firm, to use Chris's case for example, or hey, I know you have friends that work at Stripe or Visa or whatever the case might be, Ahmed, or you could get me introduced to a podcast or an interview that people at this organization might watch or listen to. But have that very specific ask in your back pocket. But I really like to start these conversations open-ended to, one, like leverage their intelligence, right? See what their thinking is right out of the gate, but then have that specific idea in your back pocket to pull out after they share their ideas to say, hey, thank you so much for that thought. I wonder if you couldn't also introduce me to this person. So let me pause there and get people's reaction to that and see what else we can do for some brainstorming here in our last couple of minutes remaining. Chris, I can almost hear the gears turning there, buddy. What do you got?
I get that a lot. No, it's just it's given me a lot of thoughts.
And if you take it back to this alignment concept, right, where you're getting that audience aligned, the partner alignment, and your alignment, the goal alignment, to thank you, Fabienne, for that clarification, it really makes these conversations, I think, more powerful. I'll let you absorb that for a minute there, Chris. Anyone else have a thought that jumps out at them in terms of, does it make you think of someone else? Does it feel like a comfortable conversation to have? Do you think someone would say no? I can promise all of you that when I've gone through this exercise, no one has ever said no to me. And in fact, when I think back to my own career, I spent 23 years on Wall Street. The way I worked my way into a pretty interesting role at the firm was literally going through this exercise. Actually, in that case, it was going to my clients and saying, hey, what's it like working with me? If you were me, how would you better execute these kind of things? And I mean, it just completely changed the complexion of my career, getting that real-time feedback and idea sharing to build a better business plan. But people are willing to help you, but it's having that extra preparation, celebrating them for their general awesomeness and how they helped you, and then getting them to open up their minds about what it is you're trying to do and what you're trying to solve for, and getting their feedback on how that might work. But then also, more importantly, having that specific ask in your back pocket that you can have to share with them. Did Fabienne? I think she said she had to jump off. Let me pause there and get other.
To jump off.
I'm going to send a note. So I just realized I'm late here. I'm going to buy myself 2 minutes and make sure I answer any questions that you all still have. We ran a little bit out of time here. Let me just send this note real quick. Sorry. All right. So thoughts, questions, reactions. Hopefully this helps you think about different organizations, different people, different inspirers, different mentors, mentees that you could reach out to. You're recording this, I think, Alan, right? I'll share one thought for, I think that came up kind of earlier in the session. how to find the right contact. It was a question, I think, was it Fabienne might have added at the front end. I have found, and somebody else brought this idea up, PR people tend to have a lot more control than you think in these circumstances. Somebody kind of mentioned that. So I would not be afraid to look at, to ask about public relations contacts, because oftentimes companies do rely on them for these sort of outside partnerships. I have firsthand experience in dealing with that. And I'll save that story for another time if someone wants to ask me for it, but that is a powerful group. I think Ahmed had the question around positioning and offering, and how do you sort of, package up what you're giving them. Hopefully you've got some ideas around this. What I like to do in those cases, Ahmed, is sort of look at, what are super successful things in this space doing, right? Maybe look at look where Visa and MasterCard do a lot of their advertising, right? I feel like I always see them at like big tennis tournaments and things like this, big sporting events, right? Why do they go there? And what do they get from those offerings that when they sponsor an NFL game or a tennis tournament, whoever it might be. I would not be afraid to borrow from some of those ideas you see there. And I also wouldn't be afraid to just do a simple Google search around this as well. And if anybody wants to schedule one-on-one time with me to have more of I apologize that we didn't have a little more time to do a sort of a specific case study for any one person. But if anyone wants to schedule time with me, I'd be happy to do that.
I just want to jump in and say that is an amazing offer, and anybody that doesn't take it is foolish to get one-on-one time with John to do this kind of alignment. So that's an awesome offer, and I hope you all take advantage of that.
I'll send I don't know that I have everyone's contact information now, so maybe I'll send you my calendar link if people want to grab time in there. I'm happy to do it. I know we ran over here a little bit. Any last questions folks might want to have or comments? Happy to jump into them, or we can wrap it up. And again, as I said, happy to have a call afterwards if that would be of use to you. Well, hopefully I gave you a little bit to think about, maybe a lot, but sort of opening up, maybe you're thinking a little bit about who to target for these partnerships, how to go after them, how to go out and maybe frame this message and start to turn over some of these rocks, if you will, because it's, to Ahmed's point earlier about not having too many sponsors, chances are good you might have to go after a bunch to kind of get to those two, if you will. But going through the exercise of talking to these different folks can really help you refine that message and get it more fine-tuned for what you're trying to solve for, and sort of find a better package, if you will, to offer them. And I think that analogy could be used for everybody here.
Thanks a lot, John.
Hey, thank you, everyone. As I said, happy to chat in the future, but hopefully this helps and give you a few ideas to move forward. Alan, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, John. We certainly appreciate it. And I think I can speak for everybody here today when I say that, this presentation really opened up the channels, a lot of just things to think about, and also ways for us to now start to navigate the pathway towards these financial goals of ours. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Great to see everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care.